So, as I'm sure you guys can see from the title, we've had a little bit of drama at the Pokemon World Championships for 2023, and it's all centered around players using illegally obtained Pokemon. And this all kind of kicked off with our friend Brady Smith over at the VGC Corner. I'll show his tweet here. He said, DQ'd at 2-0, should have got my mons myself. Half my team was modded / gen. I didn't have access to Legends Arceus for Landorus. I didn't have a copy of Sword and Shield to get Urshifu. Now, look, I just want to say a couple things before we jump into this. Like, first of all, like, my opinion on genning is I don't care. Whatever you do, it doesn't affect me. If Brady genned his mons, if he didn't gen his mons, it doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, it's skill, right? But for me, I guess a big reason why I wanted to, make this video is because I know there's, a particular wolf boy who's going to, and I quote, I've heard people saying this is basically his wet dream, right? He loves making fun of the, community and, obviously, like, I understand why people dislike hacking, but to me, again, it's whatever. But the main reason I wanted to, like, I guess, talk about this is to kind of give you guys a bit of a better understanding as to why some of these players have, gen their mons. And, like, Brady's not the only one, by the way. Like, Brady's not, like, the only person who got DQ'd. A lot of people have been disqualified. A former opponent of mine, Calvin Chen, he finished top 8 at Worlds last year. I don't know what happened to him. Maybe I'm just looking at this wrong. But on Arcanine Labs, he was listed as 4-1 and had a line through his name. So I don't know if he was DQ'd in his 5th round. I don't know if he dropped out. I don't know what the go was there. I'm almost certain he didn't make day 2. I didn't see his name on the list. But it looks like Calvin Foster, also, one of the best players in the world, was DQ'd. I've seen a lot of other people on Twitter who were DQ'd. I've seen a lot of players who were told, like, hey, you can't use a specific mon. Like, hey, like, I think there was one guy who actually made top cut where they were like, hey, your Urshifu is not legal. You can't use it. You've got to play with the other 5 mons. And basically, like, again, look, for me, my opinion on this is if you're playing at Worlds or any Nintendo-based event, don't gen your mons. That's so stupid. Like, I know K-Fodix, who apparently is also the person who's... I should probably speak about K-Fodix actually real quick. K-Fodix is the guy who created PK hacks, and allegedly he's the person who were helping Nintendo hack check all these mons. I don't know how true that is. I've just heard that from people playing at the event. But yeah, apparently K-Fodix is helping them out. But yeah, so players like... So K-Fodix has come out before and said, like, it's like at most events, like 50% of the top teams are hacked, right? Which is kind of crazy. And that's why I always say, guys, if you're playing at an event, just don't hack your mons. If you like, especially Worlds, like if you're going to Worlds and you think there's a chance you might use an Urshifu, there's a chance you might use a Landorus, try to get your hands on one early. Talk to friends who might be able to help you out. That's what I did. I helped Lukey VGC with his, he couldn't legally obtain 3 of his mons. And I helped him do it. I gave him one of my Landoruses, I gave him one of my Tauns, and I gave him my Water Urshifu. So yeah, that was, it was good. I helped him out. It is what it is. But basically, I'm going to pull up some usage stats here for you guys just to look at. So it's kind of like, I'm just trying to explain, like, try to show you guys basically why people are using hacked mons, right? Or like, why some people are genning. So if you have a look at this here, this is the top 12 Pokemon used at the day 1 of the World Championships. So Urshifu, Rapid Strike, you cannot legally obtain in Scarlet and Violet. Tornadus, Landorus, Heatran, Ursaluna, all are not legally obtainable in Scarlet and Violet. And Rillaboom has only been legal for about 2 weeks, and that's if you did a raid event. A lot of people that I know had their Worlds teams ready before 2 weeks ago. At least they were working on them. Now, look, if you've got a Rillaboom and it's genned, I don't really think there's an excuse for that. You should have just got one legally. Like, a lot of people could have helped you out. Like, personally, I traded up a shiny one from Sword and Shield. It just sits there. I've helped a couple people out. People who've said, hey, I need Rillabooms. I just breed them one. I give them a Rillaboom. It is what it is. But also, I'll quickly pull up the day 2 stats here as well. In the day 2 stats, we also see Urshifu Dark pop up there. That's another Urshifu, which I think that gives us, what, 6 of these mons, 6 of the top 13 mons you can't legally obtain in Scarlet and Violet. Now, I've seen a lot of people come up with a lot of different excuses, especially, Velicify's community saying, like, oh, like, you already own all the games. Like, you own Scarlet and Violet, you own Sword and Shield, you own Legends Arceus, you own, BDSP, you have the ORAS games. I just want to say, not everyone has that. I'm a Pokemon nerd. I own every single copy of every Pokemon game, literally since Black and White 2. I have Black and White 2, Black and White 2, I have X and Y. I actually have 2 copies of X. I've got both, like, ORAS copies. I've got, 4 copies of Sun, Moon, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, I have 3 copies of BDSP. Like, I've got a lot of games, right? Not everyone has, those funds. Not everyone is a full-grown adult with a, full-time job who can go out and buy all these games. And it is really sad because, it's one of those things where not everyone has access to this. And on top of that as well, like, even if you have the older games, you need to have Bank installed. Home is like another, like, $20 a year. I think for me as an Australian, it's like 30 something. But that's like you know, a price not everyone wants to pay. Not everyone can afford to like pay like $30 just to transfer old mons, right? Like, to me, this is just like a massive accessibility issue. And like a big thing as well is a lot of people are forgetting, like, yeah, you know, we're obviously focusing on the Masters because the Masters division is, you know, adults. There are juniors that are 12 and under here. There are seniors who are 13 to 17 at this event as well. And, you know, like, I don't know about you guys, but when I was 12 years old, I didn't have access to every Pokemon game. I think my parents bought me 2 or 3 Pokemon games up until I was like 16. And then when I was 16, I started buying games for myself because I was working. And I'm sure there are plenty of, you know, 12 and unders, even, you know, teenagers who were in the exact same boat I was, that their parents didn't buy them the games, you know, like, hey, you know, like, for example, I have Sword and Shield. I don't think some random 15-year-old has Sword and Shield. I think he might have Sword, he might have Shield, but he most likely doesn't have both. And, you know, at the end of the day, this is like a big mistake by Nintendo, I think. It's like, look, I understand that they want to crack down on genning, and for me, it's whatever, right? As I said, I don't think you should take gen mons to an event anyway, so I don't care that they're coming out and they're, you know, they're basically stopping people from genning or, like, you know, using gen mons. I think that's okay, right? They want to, you know, especially because it's in Japan. Apparently, I've heard there's like laws against genning in Japan as well. I don't know how true that is. I've just read that on Twitter. But I understand why they're cracking down, but I think they've picked the absolute worst time to crack down. If you want to crack down on this, give us like legal ways to obtain all of these Pokemon within Scarlet and Violet. Because that's just these Pokemon as well, right? Cresselia is not on this top list. You can't get Cresselia in this game, right? There are other Hisuian mons like, you know, Hisuian Lilligant, which some Sun teams are running. Like, there's a lot of mons that you can't legally obtain in Scarlet and Violet. Like, you need to have 2 or 3 games. And Brady was a great example. Brady needed 3 games to make his team. He couldn't do it. And yeah, like, it's, I think this is a big stuff up on Nintendo's part. Like, again, I understand why they're doing it. It's just, I really wish they, I just wish they did it at a different time. Like, maybe, like, you know, like, come out, like, after this World and say, hey, the next time we're cracking down, especially, too, when they tweeted out, like, hey, don't use mons from other people. Like what Brady's done here, right? Brady's got his Pokemon from someone else, a reputable trader, as he says. And Nintendo came out and like, hey, don't use your Pokemon that other people trade you. And it's like, some of these people don't have access to these games. It's like seriously, like, if I only had Scarlet and Violet and I went to Worlds, I'm like, all right, well, I have to build my team without Urshifu. I have to build it without Tornadus. I have to build it without Landorus. No Heatran. You know, no Ursaluna. It's like, I'm not going to do anything. Like, it's so hard to, like, I shouldn't say I'm not going to do anything. I think Wolf went 4 and 3 without any, you know, without any home mons. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a really shitty situation Nintendo's put us in. And I think there's going to be a lot of misinformation about this topic out there as well. That's kind of why I just wanted to, like, touch on it. And, you know, I use Brady as an example. I do apologize, Brady, if you do end up seeing this. You probably won't. Because I do think I'll put your face in the thumbnail or something. So I do apologize for that. But yeah, guys, that's all I really wanted to touch on. Sucks to see it. I hope Nintendo do better. I really hope in the DLC, especially this one coming up in about a month, that we get access to all the home Pokemon in the DLC. But yeah, anyway, guys, that's all I wanted to talk about. See ya.